If group size and conformity are independent, the proportion of people who conform and who do not conform are pretty much the same regardless of group size. So we have 70 people who conformed and 130 people who did not conform, meaning that we had a sample of 200 people. So looking at the people who conformed, there were 70 of them out of 200. So 70 into 200 is 35%. Looking at the people who did not conform, there were 130 of them out of 200. 130 into 200 is 65%. So if 35% is the overall proportion of people who conformed and the overall proportion of people who did not conform is 65%, and if this does not depend on group size, then these proportions are to be expected for when the group size is 2 or when the group size is 5. Therefore, looking here at our table, just for conformity, the expected frequency in the first row, just for group size of 2, is 28. This equals 35% of the 80 people who are in group size of 2. The expected frequency for the group size of 5 is 42, as this is 35% of 120 people who were in group size of 5. Then we can do the same for people who did not conform, but using their proportion of 65%. The same approach to calculating the expected frequencies can be taken if we go the other way and look at the proportions across group size, as shown here. Proportions for group size are the row proportions in the final column. 80 people were exposed to group 2 out of a total of 200 people. That's a proportion of 40%. 120 people were exposed to group 5 out of 200 people. That's a proportion of 60%. Then looking at our table for group size of 2, if conformity and group size are independent, then the proportion of 40% will be the same for whether you conformed or did not conform. So for conformity, the expected frequency is again 28, as this is 40% of 70 people. Now you'll be pleased to know that we don't have to go to all this trouble to calculate the expected frequencies. I just did it for you to try and demonstrate the nuts and bolts behind the calculation. There is in fact a simple formula that immediately calculates the expected frequency. Using our original table of observed frequencies, these totals in the first box are the row frequencies, and those in the second box are column frequencies. Now to see how the formula gives us the same result, let's do the calculation for group size 2 and conformity. The row frequency for group size 2 is 80. Of 80 is multiplied by the column frequency for conformity, which is 70. Then we divide by our number of people, which is 200. And it gives us the expected frequency of this cell of 28, which is the same as I calculated a little while ago. Let's do another for group size of 5 and non-conformity. So again, the row frequency for the group size of 5 is 20, which is multiplied by frequency for not conforming of 130. Then we again divide by our sample size of 200, which gives us an expected frequency for this cell of 78. And this can be done with all the cells. So please go back to the previous slides to check that these calculations agree based on the proportions that we did previously.